Welcome to the Learn True Health podcast. I'm your host, Ashley James. This is episode 104. My guest today is one of the most influential people in the naturopathic world, and her story is amazing. If you are suffering from a chronic condition, or if you know someone who's suffering from a chronic condition, this is a must read. This is a must listen to episode and a must share episode. Now, Razzy Berry, having been healed from natural medicine and having her life be completely changed by natural medicine, and having spent the last 10 years uplifting and promoting natural medicine, she saw that so many people were dying of heart disease, and heart disease is one of the number one killers around the world. And it's just growing out of control. You know, no matter how many drugs they bring to the market, heart disease is still on the rise. We really need to do something to shift this space so that we can help those we love heal. I lost my dad to heart disease. So this is a topic very close to my heart. Well, she got together over 60 of the world's top experts in holistic healing and healing the heart, including cardiologists who use natural medicine. And she has for you an 8-day online event, and it's totally free. So you can log in and you can learn from over 60 experts in how to heal and empower your heart holistically. So mentally, emotionally, physically, and spiritually. Amazing doctors and scientists that she has on, and you get this all for free. All you have to do is go to learntruehealth.com/heart. That's learntruehealth.com/heart, and you can sign up for 8 days of this amazing event with over 60 experts teaching you how to reverse heart disease, prevent heart disease, heal heart disease. I said it, heal heart disease. Learn from these amazing experts. So go to learntruehealth.com/heart and sign up for this event. It's going to be coming up soon, so you'll want to sign up as soon as possible. Just go to learntruehealth.com/heart. Enjoy today's episode, and please share it with those you love. Let's turn this ripple into a tidal wave and help so many people. If you know anyone with chronic illness, anyone who's sick and tired of being sick and tired, and if your friends or have family members who have any kind of heart disease, please share this episode with them. Happy Valentine's Day. Whether you love Valentine's Day or not, it is here and it's today. So I just want to start off the show by saying I love you. I love you, my listeners. I cannot tell you how happy I am to be here today with another guest that I love, Razzy Berry, and that is her name. We had a whole back and forth over Skype. I was like, is that really your name? But she is probably a bigger fan of naturopathic medicine than I am, if you could actually believe that. I just could not believe that someone would be even more excited about naturopathic medicine than me, but we have a winner, and it's Razzy Berry. Welcome to the show.
Thank you, Ashley. Maybe it's a tie.
Okay, we'll take it together. Yes, so it's like Razzy Berry is my soul sister. We just love naturopathic medicine. Now, Razzy Berry founded the Journal of Naturopathic Doctor News and Review, which when I heard about that, went over to Dr. Megan Saunders, who most of you know because you've listened to other episodes she's been on. And I said, have you heard about this naturopathic journal? And her reply was, it's a very well-respected naturopathic journal. I thought, that's cool. I'm interviewing the founder of a naturopathic journal, which Razzy has told me only naturopaths are allowed to contribute to this journal. So just like there's journals for cardiologists, well, this is the journal basically for naturopaths. So it's ndnr.com. So if you really want to geek out and read what naturopaths are publishing, ndnr.com. And then Razi decided a few years ago, because she realized a lot of the people reading were also laymen, not doctors like you and me, who are just wanting to learn more and get our health back. So she created the natpath.com. That's the NAT path. PATH.com. And of course, all the links to everything that Raspberry does is going to be in the show notes of today's podcast. And the Nat Path is fantastic because for all of us who would just want to learn more about natural medicine, lots of great articles there. And then we have, because of course it's Valentine's Day, we're going to be talking about the event that you need to sign up for. And I am so inspired. It's free, and she has gathered the top experts around the world in well, I'm just going to let you talk about it. But I'm just kind of letting the listener know right off the bat that they're going to want to stick around for the whole episode, because they're going to be invited to attend this amazing online event with over 60 experts to teach them how to heal and empower their hearts mentally, emotionally, physically, and spiritually, which is exactly what natural medicine is all about. Razzy,
Yes.
I'd love to start off this episode with you sharing your story, because you have such an amazing story. So welcome to the show.
Well, first of all, thank you so much, Ashley. And I'm just so inspired by your work in helping people to find their true health, because for many of us, it's a journey, it really is. And for me, it was as well. My journey started when I was really quite young. I was 14 years old, and I was dying in the hospital with heart failure. But the reason I was dying of heart failure is because it was a complication of an eating disorder. So, for your listeners, everyone knows someone who's been touched by an eating disorder in some way. It's not just physical. It's an all-encompassing, like most illnesses. It's physical, it's spiritual, it's emotional. So I was really still a little girl, and I was in the hospital, and I was dying. And this was, a long time ago. And the culture was kind of different back then. I remember the hospital staff had sort of this disdain for my case. They were, there had been a lot of people in and out with eating disorders, but the fact that like my heart was failing, I remember them using words like, she's doing it to herself. And I had such a feeling of shame attached to that, right? I already was suffering in my own ways. But there was a real shame there, and almost like, again, I was a child, so I wasn't maybe they weren't looking at it from my point of view and vice versa, but it was just a really hard experience. And I was raised Catholic, and my parents had, brought in the priest to do last rites. And shortly after that, my mom brought my then 4-year-old brother in to say goodbye. And suddenly I was like looking at them from like the top of the hospital room. Like I was looking down, like the doctor had a comb over. I was looking at the top of his head. And I didn't really know what to think about that. Our mind is so powerful, in our heart and our brain and our consciousness. But all I do know for sure is that experience, I felt like this, my body, I was sad at people. I knew I was dying, and I wanted to escape that feeling of shame, right? Like I've loved my family and I didn't want to die, but I also wanted to escape that terrible feeling of shame and being judged, and just the pressure of whatever an eating disorder does to a young girl. But then I was surrounded in this love and this warmth, and all of a sudden all this understanding, and I just wanted to be there. Like it was just indescribable, really. But then I was filled with this kind of understanding that like, it's almost like having a 360 view. Like I was given this temporary gift of understanding, like where everybody else's heart was. And I realized this disdain that the hospital staff had for me, and even the meanness, was really coming from a place of love. And my family, I just felt my family's love. And I just had this message given to me that like, the love, you don't need to leave here to have this love. Like love is healing, and it's already there for you. So some people have had experiences like that are much more complex, and there was a little bit more to it. But without going too far deep into that, really what happened after that is I healed. I healed, instantly healed. My heart healed. My eating disorder went away, and I left the hospital on 0 medications.
Wow.
So that from that point on, yeah, I didn't, it didn't hit me over the head the way it does even today when I think about it. And for a long time, aside from my nurse and the main nurse and my family, of course, I didn't really share that. I was a little bit afraid to share that, but I did become much more sensitive to that intuitive center of our heart that, nothing special about me. We all have it. But from such a young age, I came to really understand this concept that we call mind body medicine, that our hearts, our minds, our spiritual selves, and our body really aren't separate. They're together. That we are much more than this, but we also are this. We are our physical selves right now. Maybe after there's something more, but right now, this is what we are. And there's something very spiritual in that too. So I went through the rest of my teenage years and my young adulthood really kind of searching for that experience again, right? So I got really immersed in religion, learning about other religions, diving deep into different religions, and really wanting to recreate that feeling again that I felt that day in the hospital, that intense, intense love, right? Because even though I healed physically, that, special feeling didn't stay with me all the time, right? We're all human. So I really began searching for that. And I think that we all do in many ways. And I think some illnesses, like addictions and things like that, are where we're really searching for these experiences, right? These maybe spiritual experiences or this feeling of connection. So that was the beginning for me, Ashley, of this healing journey. But that was just one piece of the puzzle. That was just maybe the kind of coming to appreciate the spiritual aspect, the holistic aspect. But I hadn't really understood yet the whole idea of the nature part of it. I grew up, in a suburb, swimming in a chemically chlorinated pool. My dad worked a lot, so we didn't go camping a lot or anything. So what I'm trying to say is I wasn't like super connected to nature. Like my backyard was my experience with nature, or the park down the street. That's really what all the nature I got. And we ate the way people did back then. We ate, boxes of cereal based on what the toy that they were advertising on it. That's how we chose our breakfast. Or, it was just, my mom was just not really, not that she didn't care, but she didn't understand about natural health. So we just ate, margarine and all that stuff. And so, but I mean, we ate healthy homemade food, but you get what I'm saying, right? I didn't live this like holistic life. I was vaccinated. I wasn't breastfed. So all that stuff. So for the most part, I felt pretty good. But then, in my early to mid 20s, I was working in this career that was very demanding. I was making fantastic money. The real estate market was amazing, and I was selling new homes. And then I just crashed and burned. Something happened that I just became it came on in a week's time. I just crashed. My adrenals crashed. I was having terrible pain. My hair was falling out. I was having migraines that I would lose vision in my left eye, and my body just hurt to touch. So I started going from doctor to doctor to doctor. I was missing work. And nobody could offer any help. The neurologist would look at my head and give me a pill for that, for my headaches. And then, my OBGYN would take a look at my messed up hormones and give me a birth control pill or something. Everybody just looked at each part of my body as something disconnected. You know what I mean?
Yes.
And so then I went to this clinic that everybody just raved about. It's called the Mayo Clinic, and they're supposed to have this amazing team approach. So I went there, and it was really just more of the same. It was just more doctors telling me, treating me like I was just this disjointed conglomeration of body parts that didn't really go with each other. But back then, chronic fatigue syndrome and fibromyalgia, was what I was later diagnosed as, it really wasn't taken seriously. And probably because they didn't have some terrifying drug that they could prescribe, which they do now, right? The drugs that are prescribed for that now are pretty terrifying when the commercials actually tell you they can cause cancer. But so they basically told me I refused some of the medicines that were so strong. So then they brought in a psychiatrist who told me, these medicines aren't going to help you because this pain is not in your body, it's in your head. Like the doctor actually said that to me. The pain is not in your body, it's in your head. So I left there and started searching in deeper. And then I found another doctor who would listen to me and believed me, believed the pain I was having, saw that my labs were all over the place, and just said, you just need to go on disability.
Oh my
Well,
gosh.
and I was like, I was still single. I dreamed of, having children someday, getting married. And that just terrified me, like to just think that that was what my life would be relegated to, was just having this government check mailed to me every month, and then a prescription of pain pills, something to wake me up in the morning, something to put me to bed at night. Like, I was terrified. So this was 17, 15, years ago. And so I couldn't really just go online or listen to a podcast like yours to get good health information. I had to really become a detective. And long story short, that is how I found naturopathic medicine. I reluctantly went to a naturopathic doctor because I, growing up, thought anybody that wasn't an MD was a quack. I thought chiropractors were quacks. I thought DOs were quacks. I thought anything that wasn't an MD. That's just how I was raised. That was just the community that I lived in. So I was terrified to go to a naturopathic doctor. But it was the turning point when I discovered this medicine called naturopathic medicine, and these principles that these doctors are guided by, that they learn while they're in medical school. This isn't just some afterthought. This is a paradigm. So that is where my new story began, my new career began.
Take me to that first appointment. What was it like?
Yeah, so I was, afraid. I see this shelf with all these like bottles of like herbs, and there's like flowy music, and and it wasn't anything I expected. But as soon as I met the doctor, she was just amazing, and she spent so much time with me and asked me questions that had never crossed my mind. The longest appointment I had had prior to this was maybe 15 minutes, really. That's not counting the time spent in the waiting room, right? But to go to a naturopathic doctor who spent a whole hour and ask me questions like, what are your dreams like? What do you dream about? What do you crave? Are you thirsty for cold or hot water? Let me feel your pulse. Not just one pulse, but like one of several different pulses you have. Let me look at your tongue, the color of the whites of your eyes. What are your relationships like, and what kind of work do you do? No one had ever taken the time to ask me those questions. It was beautiful. I mean, I wept because you could tell that somebody really cared, to ask such questions. And you could tell that she was really, putting pieces together and making, drawing lines between my different answers to really put a picture together of what was happening to my body.
And how did she help you to reverse fibromyalgia and chronic fatigue syndrome?
Yeah, so one thing she discovered by asking about my work history was, of course, working in new homes. You think, that's just fine. You just sit there and you greet people and you talk to them. Well, she thought about testing me for solvents and different toxins, because when you're in that environment, whether you're renting a new apartment or a recently upgraded apartment, or you're in a house that's been remodeled, there are so many things that off-gas: carpets, carpet glue, the fiber boards that they use, the paint on the walls, plasters, pipes and plastic and wires. I mean, these things all off-gas different chemicals, especially in the beginning. So I was really kind of soaking all that up for years. And prior to that, I worked in the cosmetics industry. I was actually a sales rep for a company, very well-known company that makes like perfume and cologne. So I was just around these different toxic chemicals that now it's more widely known that these things can build up in your bloodstream and accumulate in your liver and kidneys and wreak havoc on your hormones and your nervous system. But naturopathic medicine has kind of looked at that for a really long time, and they've kind of been the leaders in teaching that to other doctors too. And so that is where she started. And then we went through detoxification, of course, my diet. I had been really addicted to caffeine and carbs to just kind of keep myself going every day. So we did a type of fasting and elimination diet, some IV therapies that were just amazing. I was really afraid of those, but they very quickly became to see how wonderful they are. And I have to say that it didn't happen overnight. And I don't know if fibromyalgia ever goes away. I mean, I'm human, and so during times of stress, sometimes I still will have some symptoms, maybe a few times a year. Like when my father passed away, for instance, I felt like I had a little flare up of pain. But for really, I can say that I live pain free and I'm not on any medications. And it's because of that first day in that office.
Amazing. And you know what? The body, because it speaks to us in symptoms, that flare up is your body's way of talking to you. And if you had never had a diagnosis of fibromyalgia, you might not have really noticed the pain, or you would have just thought that that was part of your grieving. Like when I lost my parents, I felt like my heart was tearing in two. It was physical
Yes.
for weeks. I thought, I mean, I
Yes.
knew that I wasn't having a heart attack, but I almost went to the emergency room a few times because my heart felt like was being stabbed out
Oh,
of my
yeah.
chest because of the grief. And I knew
Yeah.
that the body will experience physical pain when our emotional pain hits that certain point, right? And so
Mm-hmm.
you're and that of course then causes inflammation, and it's just amazing how an emotional event can stimulate this cascade of physical response of physical events. And so your body was speaking to you in symptoms. That doesn't mean you have been put in this box called you have fibromyalgia and this is your diagnosis and this is your
Right.
title, right? It's like
Right.
raspberry comma fibromyalgia, and it's that's not that's the mindset we need to get out of, is that we are not our diagnosis. It is a collection of symptoms that has been given a name. But once we heal the body, then we no longer have, like, that's not your diagnosis anymore. Like, I know alcoholics say I am an alcoholic and they haven't drank for 20 years. But that works for them, but it would not work for someone who has recovered from diabetes to walk around and keep saying to people, I am a diabetic, I'm a diabetic.
Right.
Because it's like, you know what, your body can heal itself, your body can heal, and you can move on, and you learn, you listen. If your body starts giving you symptoms, and now you are so fine-tuned, you get a little bit of pain, you go, oh, now I need to make sure that I'm getting enough sleep and taking care of my emotions, and that I'm, eating right, and I gotta retrace my steps and make sure that I'm taking care of myself, right? So it's like the body speaks to us. So if it whispers, then we can jump on it and take care of ourselves now, instead of wait for the wait for the
Right.
giant breakdown. Now that you have the tools, right? It's important so that you have those tools. So you spent this time with this naturopath. Tell us about sort of the new life that was given to you, that you created, now coming to the light side.
You're right. Right. Well,
How did that transform into becoming the Raspberry founder of this over 10-year-old naturopathic journal?
Well, so yes, so with that, it took some time, but I started feeling better at every second because all the office visits weren't spent on all diagnosing. We got to work right away. And so I became, of course, evangelical. I wanted to tell everybody about it. It's like seeing that movie that moves you and you want the whole world to go see it, right? Wanted to tell everyone about it. And I ended up meeting someone and getting married and enjoying good health. But one thing was still a problem for my health, and that was I could not keep a pregnancy. I couldn't keep a pregnancy. So for 6 years prior to starting NDNR, Naturopathic Doctor News and Review, I returned to that job that I had done before, and it was still very stressful and stuff, but I made so many lifestyle changes. I returned there, which I don't know if that was a good heart-centered. I kind of returned to it because financially I had a new husband that was just out of medical school, and you know what I mean, or finishing medical school. So I made really not a heart-centered decision to return to that job, but I still was feeling really good, but I kept having miscarriages. I had 5 miscarriages in 6 years, and it broke my heart. And I was doing all the right things nutrition-wise and everything. And we just couldn't figure out what the problem was. So I decided that I wanted to give birth to something. I wanted to do something creative. So I just sort of gave up, I guess, being afraid that I just would never have a child. And I didn't want to do anything conventionally. I just didn't want to go through the shots, the hormones, and things like that. So I thought, if I'm not going to conceive naturally, then I'm just not going to conceive. So I realized that naturopathic medicine didn't really have a one place for NDs to share all of their amazing knowledge, because, as you well know, 12 people can present with strep throat or a thyroid problem or headaches, and all 12 people will be treated different, because naturopathic doctors treat the person, right, and not their disease, just as you were saying a few minutes ago so succinctly, Ashley, that we're really not this not this title. So back then, a lot of people didn't have websites and stuff, so I just started writing letters to naturopathic doctors and inviting them to share their cases, and that I would publish them. And that's how it got started. And when I started doing that, I was so much more in love with NDNR than I was with my other job, because I did them both at the same time. And I realized it was the stress of this other job, and I was terrified because I was making fantastic money. Again, the real estate market was booming. I'm in Phoenix, Arizona, the best place in the world to be for real estate, but I was so just not in love with it, and I was falling in love with the other, and I knew I had to let one of them go. And so I quit my job, and I was terrified. I was just so terrified to not have that financial, net anymore, but I just had to do what I loved. And after I did that, I got pregnant within a few months. And to me, that is just really, that was the missing link. It still was naturopathic medicine, because it was that whole idea of the stress and the emotions and following your heart. It took me to giving birth to this journal, which I call my first child, to really be able to conceive. And then 20 months later, I, surprise, got pregnant with my second daughter.
Wow, you had such a strong intention.
Yeah.
Amazing. So you have two wonderful children?
Yeah, I have 2 beautiful daughters. I homeschool them. And
I just love you more and more.
oh, I love you too.
Oh, this is so cool. Well, because it's Valentine's Day, right? But I just have to I don't think I've ever told a guest how much I love them. It's so awesome. I love that you homeschool your kids. It's just awesome. I have a 22-month-old, so I say to people I homeschool, but
You do.
I do. I know. I mean, he's too young to go to school anyway, really. It's just pretty much daycare at this point. So we don't do daycare. My husband and I basically juggle our son. But so proud of him. He's 22 months old, and we really do take the time to teach him, and at his level, right? Because we're not gonna
Right.
we're not gonna shove information down his throat, although we're really eager to. But today he's not only counting, he knows the entire alphabet. But my husband asked him in front of his grandparents. It's like a little to impress them. He goes, he said, "Brave, what's the number that comes after 7?" And he goes, 8, 9. And we all just we couldn't believe it. I mean, he's 22 months old, and we couldn't believe it. But yeah, that's right. We've been doing the numbers and the letters. So homeschooling is fun, but I can see I'm stressed out, because I'm like, am I doing it right? Am I giving him enough stimulus? Am I teaching him enough things? I guess I'm an A-type personalities coming out when it comes to homeschooling. I think I'd have a nervous breakdown if I had to homeschool him through high school, because I just don't know if I'd, be giving him all the information he'd need, you know what I mean? So anyways, you have, to be able to run so many things. You are homeschooling your kids. You've got ND, NR. You have this amazing Heart Revolution project, which is coming up. You have the natpath.com. Oh my God, you've given birth to so many children, so many projects. It's amazing.
Well, that's why I have to homeschool because when, it just works better when you work from home. I would hate for the kids to just see me during these small windows and I'm busy all the time anyway. So this way it just works. I do some work, we do some homeschool. I do some work, we do some homeschool. So it's really kind of selfish, I guess, but it works for us. It really does. And, I don't think it's for everyone. And I definitely, people always will think, well, that I'm anti-school. And that's not necessarily the case. I went all through school. But there are so many great opportunities now for homeschoolers, and we'll just do it for as long as it works for us.
And I love that. I knew I was friends with a family where one of the children was really struggling in school, and they took him out and they homeschooled him, and he flourished. So we have to like give up the old belief systems we were brought up with, just like you had to shed yourself of the old belief systems of MDs are the only doctor to go to,
Yes.
and I'm gonna eat based on what kind of toy comes with my meal. Which is like no nutrition. It's not a nutritional choice. It's not a health choice. Just
Don't you remember those little
oh, are you
plastic
kidding me?
divers?
I absolutely do. It's funny because I grew up in a very strict household, but from age 0 to 6, I was living that life. Like I picked out the cereal with the Cracker Jacks and everything that had
Yeah.
a toy in it. I was gonna eat it, and then my health was really bad, and so was my mom's. And my mom found an HPAD, and this is in the 80s,
Ah.
and he turned our life around. And this was Dr. Diadamo, the
Oh,
creator
awesome.
of the Eat Right
Eat
for Your
right.
Blood Type, but he hadn't
Yeah.
created that book yet, and he was getting everyone pretty much on like a very macrobiotic diet, which
Yeah.
we didn't even know that it was called that.
Right.
He was like no milk, sugar, yeast, or wheat, and so that was overnight. I was like eating from the health food store, and I was having carob instead of chocolate, and it was like
Wow.
life was suffering for me because I was a child that couldn't have the toy in my cereal because like all I could have was the plain rice puffs, right? So I've had both sides, and then I've since and then I rebelled, and then I've since come back to natural medicine, and now I
Yay.
really appreciate the carob and rice puffs. Although there's a lot better options out there now,
Yes.
and now people are turning to natural medicine, have a lot of great options, whereas I did not. So I feel like I had to be one of those people in the pioneering stages. But
That's great.
coming back to uh, what you do, which is so amazing, and so I have a great respect for it. So we have to shed our belief system. We have to look at our belief system because it's like being a fish in water at times. And we have to go, is this the way the whole world is? Is this the truth? And the truth
Mm.
is that maybe homeschooling is better for one child and a regular school is better for the other. And we have to stop looking at the world in black and white, just like vaccines, this vaccine conversation. The second I post something that might have people just begin to like try to look at different facts or look at different information, I get a bunch of friends on in Facebook yelling, you vaccines cured polio, and you're just
Right.
you're gonna cause the entire world to have measles, and how dare you? You're gonna murder babies by telling people vaccines are bad. And I said I didn't tell people vaccines were bad. It's not black and white. I'm just bringing up information, true factual information to look at, to get rid of this black or white conversation. It's not about one or the other. It's about the information. Let's look at it first and get into that gray zone where we can start to examine, well, am I jumping to conclusions because I have a belief system, or am I coming from the facts? That's why I love that you have the naturopathic journal, because you're bringing facts in. It's like, well, look, these people have healed from these illnesses by this way. Let's look at the facts. Let's start to examine that there are other ways, that conflict with our belief system. And if there's enough ways that people are healing, that for example, natural medicine, and your belief system is that only drugs and surgery are going to work, then your belief system can start to change, because you can start to see that there are other facts out there. And that's why I love that you've brought together this information, because you're such a cheerleader for natural medicine, because it made such a difference in your life and in mine and in so many other people. So we need to get this out there, because the AMA and Big Pharma, they have a lot of money and they have a lot of pull and they have a lot of political pull, and they're going to do everything they can to, and they have been for the last 150 years, to suppress that natural medicine works. And so we just want to bring out the facts, right? That's what we're here
Yes.
for. Tell us a bit about your. So we've talked about your journal, which I'm really excited for people to check out, especially all of our doctors. I know we do have a lot of doctors and those in the health field that listen to the show. And so go to ndnr.com and check that out, because it's awesome and it's her first baby. So we love it. And then tell us a bit about what people can get out of going to the natpath.com.
So the Nat Path, which we call Natural Path, is just a beautiful resource of naturopathic doctors sharing ways to heal and ways to prevent different diseases using these principles of naturopathic medicine. So every article that is published by a naturopathic doctor, and I chronicle some of my own health journey there as well, but they all include these tenets of naturopathic medicine that are: first, do no harm, which is attributed to Hippocrates. It's that oath that all doctors take. And it really means kind of everything that our medical system does do, that they're not supposed to. They take an oath that they're going to first treat the patient in the ways that do the least harm. And so with naturopathic medicine, that means either through physical medicine, hydrotherapy, acupuncture, herbs, dietary changes. All of those are where we begin. And then there's Tole Totem, which is treat the whole person. So it's mind, body, spirit, looking at everybody's, how all their bodies connected. Like, how did if it's, a fertility problem, you also look at liver and kidneys, for instance. You don't just look at the ovaries and the estrogen levels, progesterone levels. There's Tole Causam, find the cause. But really what that means is remove the obstacles to cure. This idea that all healing is really self-healing, that the body has this innate ability to heal. And what really causes disease is how we either sort of separate ourselves, cut ourselves off from nature, from our natural environment, really, because we're made to live in this natural environment. That we can go into that too, that we don't anymore, or things that get in the way. So when you remove those obstacles, it's not that you give something to cure the body, you remove the obstacle to the cure, is one of the main tenets of naturopathic medicine. So that's pervasive in there as well. Then the docere, doctor is teacher. So the doctor is not God, not there to cure you, but there to teach you how to heal yourself, which is so important. I think that everyone needs to know more about their body than their doctor does. And then there's prevention is the best cure. It's always better to prevent disease than to wait until something manifests. And then the last one is that healing power of nature. And what I love about this, Ashley, and we make sure we have this in every issue of, whether it's on NDNR, in the print journal, or the website, or at Naturopath, the natpath.com, is that these paradigms all come to this one place where every living thing, whether we call it God or soul or life or love, has this vital force that is altruistic. It's always seeking, your heart rate variability, your heart is always seeking to beat at the exact right pace, to pump the right amount of nutrients into each cell and the right amount of waste products out of it. And your kidneys and liver are always there working for you to get rid of what it needs to, so your blood can stay healthy and at the right, the right viscosity. Everything, it works together. The sun is offering you vitamin D, and the soil microbes and free electrons that act as free radicals. And that's love, that's love. We get love from nature, and that is in everything that we publish and every event that we put together.
Wonderful. Now, That was a great segue into talking about what everyone needs to go sign up for today, and it's free. The Heart
Yes.
Revolution. So, the Heart Revolution and the links to everything that we're talking about today is going to be in the show notes of today's podcast. But the Heart Revolution's website's learntruehealth.com/heart. Tell us about the Heart Revolution, and I want you to tell us the story of why you have created the Heart Revolution.
Yes, so I have a huge smile on my face right now that you can't see because I am so excited about this. So I had, my journey began, Ashley, with my heart and almost dying. But what we still don't really realize is that, heart disease is the leading cause of death of men and women, and that more women die of heart disease, of cardiovascular diseases, than every form of cancer combined. That
Amazing. My
is a
my
really,
father died of heart disease, so I
I'm
know,
sorry.
and my mom died of cancer, and I know exactly.
Mhm.
And
I'm
they
so
died.
sorry.
My mom died in her 50s. My dad died in his early 60s,
Oh, wow.
and I say he died of a broken heart because
Yeah.
he lost the love of
Mhm.
his life. And but and I use that as my fuel for doing what I do because
Oh.
I want to help the listener save their parents and save
Mhm.
themselves so their children don't have to go through what I went through. To have it be 22 years old and lose your
Mm.
mom, and
I'm so sorry.
and be 28 years old and lose your dad,
Oh.
and they I lost them at such a young age. So
Mhm.
it's so what you're doing is so important because you're right. Heart disease is the number one um, problem that we need to solve, and you don't sort of have a pain like with high blood pressure. You don't really feel it. Like sometimes people might feel like, oh, I can feel my pressure rise, but it's not something that people are motivated to immediately change. Whereas if you had a giant wound, like a giant gash, it's like, I'm running the emergency room, I'm getting this addressed. Whereas people can live for years with deteriorating heart health
Yeah.
and not address it and not turn the ship around, because it's
Yes.
it's not evident, or it just doesn't affect your day-to-day life, and it just happens over time. And like I said, my took 6 years for my dad to die of heart disease, but from that broken heart. But he spent 6 years deteriorating his heart health and not turning it around and not taking
Mhm.
care of himself. And it absolutely was his emotions set off his behavior to do things like not take his medication or not seek healthier ways of eating or supporting his lifestyle. And so it's so important to know that we need to, even if we're not feeling pain right now, we might be on the road to a heart attack, and it's statistically
Mhm.
likely because of how many people end up dying of heart disease. And so even though we don't have pain right now, this is the whole thing, is that people don't often take the time and effort to prevent disease because we're going to just handle what's right in front of our nose. We're busy, right?
Yes, and I'm so sorry about both of your parents. But mentioning today on Valentine's Day that your father died of a broken heart, we know that's not being poignant. Like, our hearts have been known to be this emotional and spiritual center for centuries. And what's so fascinating now is through research done by HeartMath Institute is we now understand that the heart intelligence, the heart's field, the electromagnetic field, can be measured 3 to 4 feet away from the body, and that coherence we can sense and transfer to other people. And the heart transmits information to the whole body and to our brains. And so when we say that somebody dies of grief or dies of a broken heart or even of loneliness, we're not being poetic. And that is the reason for the heart revolution. The heart revolution says that there's so much more to heart disease, to cardiovascular illness, than just fats and oils and cholesterol and your heart being some kind of pump that all it does is pump blood through your body. we have to look at like grief and how we deal with grief and loneliness and things like anger and resentment. We've got experts that are dealing with these issues on the Heart Revolution to teach us how these can impact our health and how we can move through them and deal with these emotions in more constructive, healthier ways. You mentioned Dr. Diadamo. He's here. He's at the Heart Revolution sharing everything he knows about not only all the research he's done on blood type diets, but also, the new genomics, the new idea of genetic medicine, because genes only get expressed if we turn them off and on. And it's not just the foods that we eat or things we're allergic to or toxins in the environment. Those definitely can turn genes off and on. But our emotions, I think one of the things he says in this interview is if you want to improve your children's health and their genetic health, hug them more often. I mean, isn't that awesome?
That's so wonderful. Wow, I'm looking at the list of experts and I'm floored. So many amazing people. Now, this is something that you put your email address in and you get access to it. Is it uh, also in person, or is this sort of all the presenters are kind of around the world and they're presenting from their location?
Yes, it's from all over. We've got some fantastic doctors from Europe. One that will just blow your mind. It's just this whole new idea about heart disease. One aspect of heart disease is about like plaque and things like that. But there's also this whole autonomic nervous system and looking at heart disease in a totally different way, and a cause for heart attacks that for some reason mainstream medical world hasn't really paid attention to yet. So you're going to learn some things about your heart you might never have thought of before. And it was that beginning time. I think that, all the things from that experience with my heart when I was a child through the pain of fibromyalgia and infertility. And then, I've, like all of you listening, and you too, Ashley, I've had loss, I've had grief, I've had heartache, I've made mistakes, I've failed, and those affect the health of our hearts. And a woman dies of heart cardiovascular disease like every 40 seconds or something like that. I don't have the statistics in front of me anymore, but it's just bad. They're not good. And, our hearts, there is a heart chakra. There's heart energy there. It's measurable. It's not like woo-woo or scary or weird. It's real. And naturopathic medicine is, recognizes that and honors that. And so it's a week-long event beginning February 25th. It's all online. So there's 63 experts, and it's all free during that week that you can tune in and listen and just learn, as we've been saying, to heal, empower, and follow your heart to better health, because you really have to center yourself in that heart space and learn how to forgive, learn how to eat right for you, learn the best type of fitness for your heart. Because what we're doing at the Heart Revolution is we're not handing you the answers. We're giving you all these beautiful opinions of these experts, these scientists, these relationship experts, these coaches, so you can make the best decision for you. And that is what the heartrevolution.org is all about.
I imagine I'm scrolling through and looking at all the guests, and if Learn True Health were to have a summit, it would look exactly like what you're putting on. I think my listeners will really, really love it. I know I'm definitely going to be there watching, and I'm scrolling through, and I'm seeing some people that I've interviewed that are absolutely amazing, and I'm seeing some people that are on documentaries that I've just loved, and health documentaries. So really wonderful. Tell us about another guest speaker that you are over the top thrilled about, and why.
Oh gosh, there are so many, but one of my one of my favorites is Dr. Stephen Stosny. He, some people might have seen him before on Oprah, but he is an expert on compassion and healing anger and resentment. And he goes into why loving relationships, it can be friendship, it can be with a spouse or a partner, it can be with, a sibling, but why loving relationships turn resentful. And he teaches us how to use this most powerful part of our brain, and our heart and our brain are connected. Again, heart math research scientists tell us that, and they're part of the event as well, heart math. And Dr. Stosny kind of helps shed some light on why resentment builds and what you can do to heal it. Another one of my favorites is Dr. Charlie Cropley, who is an amazing naturopathic doctor. He is 70 years old, and when you see the man, you'd think he's like 55. He so walks the talk, and he is just the embodiment of health. And he has this amazing message of radical self-healing. And he doesn't pull any punches, Ashley. You need to interview him for this podcast.
Yes, please hook me up with.
Yes, I will.
Hook me up with some of them. Yeah, I'd love that.
He just really, he makes you own it, and he creates beautiful things about how you can he really helps people dig deep into like find their healing. I'm excited about so many of them, but those really stand out to me right now.
Wonderful. Yes, I'm looking through and I'm loving it. So, what was the website again that our listeners can go to?
theheartrevolution.org. And yeah, and maybe it's easy if they go to your page, maybe you can put a link there.
I will. And it starts February 25th and goes to March 5th. So you can watch 51 hours of free interviews with these experts over 8 days. Just wonderful. Excellent. I love that you're doing this. And it's so wonderful that you're launching the registration for it on February 14th on Valentine's Day. That was well thought out.
Yeah. And I have to say this journey for me was partially, I have these beautiful, magical stories of healing in my life, but healing never ends, right? Things come up. I lost my sister and my father both recently in the past couple years, and, life happens. And so this has been a journey for me to complete my healing and heal parts of my heart. So I hope that everyone listening that chooses to tune in can really feel that energy, and I hope it's a healing experience for them.
Wonderful. Oh, I just love what you're doing. I'm so thrilled to have met you, and I'm so thrilled to be part of, to definitely be in the audience of the Heart Revolution. And I'm very excited to let my listeners know about that, because I think that is just wonderful. And I love that you have these amazing doctors on, and Jack Wolfson, the paleocardiologist, I recently interviewed him, and he's one of your speakers, and he is a riot. He is amazing.
He is a ball of energy, and he is a very passionate man, and his wife, Dr. Heather, is there as well. He was a conventionally trained cardiologist who came to the light.
Yep, after putting in pacemakers and putting in stents and seeing none of his patients actually recover, and then his wife, who's a chiropractor, opened his eyes, and he started to realize that, wait a second, after 10 years of higher education, becoming a cardiologist, which, that is highly trained, very, very specialized, and yet was not healing, was not helping people actually heal. So he turned around, and now he helps people heal heart disease naturally, which is how the body works. I'd love to end today's episode actually by talking about that. You have a philosophy of how we're no longer in nature, and I'd love for you to share that with us.
Yes. So, when I talk about natural living, natural health, I think there are people that are sometimes intimidated because they feel like they would have to give up what they love, their lifestyle, their comfort, the technology that they depend on, because all of illness is really a separation from our nature. Either we're not getting enough antioxidants, or we're not getting enough nutrition to our cells, or, there's always something that is getting in the way. And nature offers us all these answers. And it just takes like little simple, little simple practices every day. Like like I used to start the day, Ashley, when business started, taking over, as you know, that it can, like having a podcast as often as you do, is that I would like wake up in the morning and I would check my emails, and it was sort of started to get frenetic, and I was like, wow, this is not like practicing what I preach. So what I do now is like every morning I go outside barefoot. I either feed, we've got a few chickens in the backyard because we live here in the city, or I prune some fruit off the lemon trees, or in the garden for a little bit, or I just drink a cup of tea in the morning sunlight to start my day. And then I'm getting, one thing that your body needs is it needs to have this negative charge, right? And a lot of things we do is a positive charge, is oxidation. And so when you go barefoot or let the earth touch you and the sunlight touch you, it helps give that negative charge, which is same as an antioxidant, right? When you take an antioxidant vitamin, for instance, or eat food that's an antioxidant, well, the earth offers us that as well. And so just by taking time to like unplug from your computer and your phone and get outside in the real sunshine and breathe, clean air, and taking your shoes off is just one simple thing that you can do to sort of reconnect with nature. And if you start doing these little ways to plug back in, you'll see that you can still do all the things you love and still live the modern lifestyle that you have, but you can live more fully in it and more vibrantly in it. And I also think that what we seem to think sometimes with health, especially when it comes to thinking about mind-body medicine, is that, oh, we have to zone out and meditate and bring our brain somewhere else. And that's really hard for me to do. I don't know about you, but that's really hard for me to do. And what I've discovered is, instead of just trying to be bodyful, if our mindful, I just gave away the answer. You need to be bodyful, that right now we are in this physical experience, and health happens to our body. And it's not like we just have this spirit or this soul or this life that's just stuffed inside this body. It's like, think about at the moment of conception, this life force is working together with this physical matter, together weaving together your cells and your tissues and your bones. And every minute it's growing and replicating and renewing. And so for me, since I had a hard time meditating or doing yoga, what I do is I try to stay inside my body and notice like the voice of the person I'm talking to, or the feel of the temperature on my body, or the cotton shirt on my skin, or the colors around me. And I try to really get inside that temporal experience. And I have found in doing meditation that way, I can easily access that state that I was in many years ago at age 14 when I had that near-death experience. And a lot of healing can happen there. I think if we take good care of our bodies, connect with nature, and really live inside our bodies and feel those emotions and feel what that feels like, for me, that is where healing really happens.
Wonderful. Razzy Berry, it has been such a pleasure having you on the show. I definitely need to have you back on the show.
I would love that, Ashley.
That would be fantastic.
You're a delight to talk to. You're a fantastic conversationalist and interviewer. So I know, no surprise, no secret why this is such a successful podcast. And I congratulate you for that.
Thank you so much. And I congratulate you for your 5 wonderful children now, because the heart revolution, which you're about to give birth to, right?
Yes.
So I know exactly what you mean, because before we had Brave, my husband and I are entrepreneurs, and I would turn to my husband and I said to him, I really feel like this is our child, because it felt, it was a new business and it took all of our time, and we'd be up late at night with it, and it's just, it has a life of its own. And then when we had our son, I was like, okay, 110% of attention on my son, and then I have to like find an extra 15% attention for like the rest of life.
Yes.
But it is very similar, to be able to be a creator, and what you've created is wonderful, and you are giving back so much. Naturopathic medicine has given you your life and your children, and you've given back so much more to the profession and to those who the profession touches. So thank you for what you do. And please, listeners, go to learntruehealth.com/heart. That's learntruehealth.com/heart.
Thank you.
Yes, excellent.
Yes.
And Razzy Berry, it's been a pleasure. I know that I'm definitely going to have you back on the show because there's so much that you have to share because of all this wonderful information and the network of naturopaths that you uplift every day. Thank you.
Thank you, Ashley, and happy Valentine's Day.
Happy Valentine's Day. Enjoy what you heard today on your episode of the Learn True Health podcast. Did something move you, inspire you? Did you get great information that's going to change your life? Awesome. That's exactly what I'm here to do, is to help you gain your health back. Please turn around and share this. If this is something that's helped you in any way, share this with those you love. Love the Learn True Health podcast and want to support us? Awesome. You can go to takeyoursupplements.com and you can support us that way. You'll get access to amazing supplements that are just really great quality for a great price. And there'll be someone on the other end of the line to help you pick out your supplements that are right for you. That's takeyoursupplements.com. Or join our membership, learntruehealth.com/join. That's another great way to support our podcast, support our movement, and you'll be supporting yourself. Gain more information, wonderful videos, wonderful trainings, and you'll also be able to share those with those you love as well. So go to learntruehealth.com/join. Want something fun for free? Go to learntruehealth.com, and right there on the front page, you'll see where you can get our free cookbook. I spent a lot of time making it, and it was so much fun. It's really delicious, healthy recipes. And you can also get our 7-day doctor course. Right there, it's 7 days of naturopathic videos sent right to your inbox, and you can learn from top naturopaths on how to gain health naturally. So that's takeyoursupplements.com for wonderful supplements. learntruehealth.com/join to join our awesome membership, which is only open for a limited time. You can get our free healthy cookbook, and you can also get for free 7 days of wonderful naturopathic videos sent to you. Just go to learntruehealth.com and you'll see it right there on the front page. Thank you so much for being a listener, and thank you for sharing and helping others. Let's spread this information and turn this ripple into a tidal wave.